What if I told you that the most secure, well-fed families in American history did not rely on massive chest freezers, electric dehydrators, or expensive freeze-dried survival buckets? Most people think that building a true, resilient food stockpile requires spending thousands of dollars on high-tech, grid-dependent storage solutions. But the families who successfully navigated the harshest economic collapse of the 1930s just made a few smart structural decisions right inside their own homes. I know this because for years I did it the exact wrong way. I spent a fortune on heavy-duty vacuum sealers, specialty mylar bags, and massive freezers, completely terrified that a single grid failure or power outage would instantly destroy my family's entire food supply. I was fighting the natural degradation of food with expensive technology instead of letting the earth and biology do the work for me. You are not doing anything wrong if you currently rely on the freezer aisle. The problem is not your lack of preparation. The problem is that the modern industrial food complex and survival gear manufacturers have deliberately conditioned us to buy corporate, grid-dependent solutions for problems that our great-grandparents solved nearly a century ago using simple physics. Stick around, because Phase 3 of this blueprint reveals a zero-electricity meat preservation method that lasts for months, and if you make it to the end, Phase 5 is an advanced, highly suppressed technique that actually increases the nutritional value of your food while it sits in the dark. We are building a community of people who know how to take care of themselves. Hit that subscribe button right now so we can restore the self-sufficient skills our ancestors spent generations perfecting. We begin our restoration of forgotten knowledge with the indoor root cellar microclimate. During the 1930s, rural homesteaders did not have the luxury of electric refrigeration to keep their autumn harvests crisp through the freezing winters. Instead, they utilized the thermal mass of their unheated spare rooms or basements, combined with ordinary playground sand and untreated wood shavings. Modern thermodynamics demonstrates exactly why this works so flawlessly. Root vegetables like carrots, potatoes, and beets need high humidity and cool temperatures to prevent shriveling. By packing these vegetables directly into wooden crates filled with slightly damp sand or sawdust, you create a perfect insulated vapor barrier. The sand regulates the moisture, preventing rot, while protecting the crops from light degradation and temperature swings. Industrial appliance manufacturers completely erased this practice from mainstream knowledge because they needed to sell massive, energy-hogging refrigerators to suburban neighborhoods. Contrast a $1,000 chest freezer and a massive monthly electric bill with a wooden crate and $20 of clean sand. Think of it as an analog hibernation chamber that puts your vegetables to sleep until you need them. Our next step in the blueprint is the cold-packed glass archive, heavily utilized by Depression-era families to store high-acid fruits, tomatoes, and vegetables entirely at room temperature. Microbiology proves that the primary cause of food spoilage is oxygen and airborne bacteria. By packing fresh produce into reusable glass jars, submerging them in a boiling water bath, and allowing the natural pressure to create a hermetic vacuum seal, our ancestors completely neutralized the bacterial threat. The food is sterilized, the oxygen is driven out, and the jar becomes a perfectly sterile environment that can sit on a shelf for over 18 months. Corporate canning monopolies centralized this process, convincing the public that safe food preservation could only happen inside a multi-million-dollar factory. Contrast a $4 jar of commercial pasta sauce loaded with synthetic preservatives with 30 cents of homegrown tomatoes perfectly sealed in reusable glass. Think of it as a biological time capsule that pauses the aging process of your harvest indefinitely. Before we move into the highly advanced, grid-free protein storage techniques from deep history, take a single second to hit that like button right now. When you interact with this video, you help break through the corporate algorithmic filters that push expensive, synthetic emergency food buckets. Your like helps this ancestral knowledge reach thousands of other families who are tired of being completely dependent on a retail supply chain that profits from their vulnerability. We are reclaiming our food sovereignty together, and your support makes it happen. As we escalate our system, we uncover the fat-sealed meat larder, also known as potting or confit. Before widespread refrigeration, families had to preserve entire hogs and cattle through the heat of summer without a single piece of meat going rancid. Biological science reveals that oxygen is the enemy of fat and protein. Ancestral homesteaders would slow-cook their meats to remove moisture, pack the cooked meat tightly into large ceramic crocks, and then pour heavily rendered, liquefied animal fat like lard or tallow directly over the top. As the fat cooled, it hardened into a completely impenetrable, airtight biological seal. No oxygen, no bacteria, no spoilage. The industrial meatpacking industry pushed highly processed, chemical-laden deli meats in grid-dependent freezers because self-reliant protein storage destroys their centralized distribution model. Contrast spending $2,000 on a solar generator just to keep your frozen meat from rotting with $0 using rendered animal fat in a ceramic crock. Think of it as a solid-state biological force field that suffocates decay before it can even begin. Our fourth phase utilizes ambient atmospheric dehydration. Homesteaders would harvest massive quantities of herbs, alliums, apples, and thin-sliced meats, stringing them up on cotton thread across the ceiling of a dry, well-ventilated spare room. Hydrology and cellular biology dictate that without water, bacteria and mold simply cannot reproduce. By using the natural, ambient thermal energy of a dry room and basic airflow, the moisture is slowly wicked away from the cellular structure of the food. The modern survival industry insists you need specialized equipment to achieve this. Contrast a $300 electric dehydrator that runs up your utility bill with a simple spool of cotton string and the ambient thermal energy naturally circulating in your home. Think of it as a moisture mining operation that extracts the water while locking the calories safely inside. Finally, we reach the absolute masterclass of the Depression-era stockpile, which is the definitive secret teased at the very beginning of our blueprint, the living fermentation shelf. While canning and dehydrating preserve calories, anaerobic lactic acid fermentation actively enhances them. Traditional families would submerge shredded cabbage and root vegetables in a simple saltwater brine inside a ceramic crock. Clinical nutritional analysis confirms that the specific bacteria present on the skin of the vegetables, lactobacillus, consumes the natural sugars and produces lactic acid. This acid not only preserves the vegetables for months without refrigeration, but actively manufactures new B vitamins and highly bioavailable probiotics. The pharmaceutical and industrial food complexes buried this knowledge because they cannot patent or repeatedly sell a self-replicating medicinal food. Contrast spending $40 a month on synthetic probiotic capsules from a pharmaceutical company with a $1.50 head of cabbage that creates its own medicinal bacteria. Think of it as a living microbial fortress that actually manufactures extra vitamins while it sits peacefully on your shelf. Every single one of these phases proves a fundamental reality. True food security does not require a massive budget, advanced technology, or a fragile electrical grid. The industrial survival industry wants us to believe that independence is complicated and expensive, so they can position themselves as the only solution. But the glass, the salt, the sand, and the ancient physics of preservation are completely free and waiting to be utilized right now. The knowledge is still here. Drop a comment below and tell me exactly which zone you are starting with this weekend. Are you packing root vegetables in sand, or are you starting your first living fermentation crock? We are building a community of people who know how to take care of themselves, grow smart, and live with absolute independence. Click that subscribe button right now to step off their retail grid and reclaim your food autonomy today.